Moving on to what you will hear in Module 1, we're going to go through some common digital marketing terms and acronyms, very handy to understand, so you'll actually know what people are talking about, or marketing people are talking about when you hear these conversations. Let's start off with impression. Now, you receive an impression when an ad or any digital media is shown on a person's screen. So it's just appearing on the screen. It doesn't even have to be 100% on the screen. It's just somewhere on the screen. Reach refers to the number of people who may have seen your ad or content. So now we're removing the focus from the ad and putting it on the person who's seeing the ad. Reach and impressions are often confused. You can reach 100 people, yet have 200 impressions. What that means is that one, or on average at least, every person of those 100 people saw your ad twice. So you received 200 impressions, but you only reached 100 people. I hope that makes sense. Please pop it into Morpheus if you are at all confused about reach and impressions. Also remember, at this point, it's a good time to remind you, you can go back and watch the recordings of the lessons that you've attended. It's a great way to get notes, if you've missed out on anything in particular that you want to check back on, etc. Then there is frequency, which is referring to the number of times someone may have seen the same ad. So if we take it back to the previous example with reach and impressions, so the frequency there of the 100 people was 2, because they each saw the ad 2 times. Generally, if it gets above 4, then you're risking or running the risk of ad fatigue, which is when essentially someone completely just doesn't even see your ad anymore, just because they've seen it so much they're just blind to it now. And of course, that's not something you want at all. Then we have device, which is what you are using when performing an action, for example, mobile, desktop, or tablet. Then a conversion. A conversion occurs when a person completes a desired goal, for example, a purchase or submitting a form. We will be talking about conversions a lot, and I'll bring this up again. But yes, so a purchase, submitting a form, subscribing to a newsletter, whatever it is that you want to achieve, you're tracking for those different conversions. Then remarketing, also something we'll be talking about a lot, and this is showing ads to people who have previously visited or interacted with your website or social media. The assumption is that they're more interested in what you have to offer because they've already visited you. And then metrics, another big one. This is a measurable value used to show the effectiveness of marketing efforts. Might sound a bit too vague at the moment. We're going to have to break it down quite a lot. That's really what you'll be seeing over this module. If we move on to segmentation, this is grouping audiences together based on different criteria with the aim to target them with more relevant info or ads. So very quick example, you want to target women with a more feminine ad and men with a more masculine ad. Let's just say that's an example of segmentation. Then lifetime value, which will be coming up towards the end of this module, is the projected revenue that a customer will generate during their lifetime. Then there are different media masculine ad. Let's just say that's an example of segmentation. Then lifetime value, which will be coming up towards the end of this module, is the projected revenue that a customer will generate during their lifetime. Then there are different media buying options that I want to take you through. First up, there is CPC, which means cost per click. Then we have CPM, which is cost per 1,000 impressions. The M comes from mil, which is Latin for 1,000. And then we have CPV, which is cost per view, and that is specifically referring to videos and video ads. Then there is also CPA, which is cost per acquisition, CPL, which is cost per lead, and CPE, which is cost per engagement. These are pretty much the metrics that you're going to, or some of the metrics that you would be looking at when working on a campaign. For example, if you have a campaign where the objective is leads, then one of your KPIs, your key performance indicators, we're going to go through that just now, would be CPL, cost per lead, because obviously you need to make sure that that is not too high or too low, there are other metrics that will help you determine that. But CPL would be, of course, one of them, and one of the main ones when you're running a lead campaign. Then there are some umbrella terms for bigger concepts, umbrellas within umbrellas, this whole digital marketing thing. SEO is search engine optimization. We looked at that very briefly earlier. Then there is SEM, which is search engine marketing, and that's referring essentially to PPC, so the Google ads, Microsoft advertising, any kind of search engine advertising. And then we have SMM, which is social media marketing, and that encompasses any marketing on any of those channels that we looked at earlier, plus the hundreds of other channels that are available. So I just want to test your retention a little bit. How can you have a reach of 200 with 300 impressions? Is it A, an ad can be shown to someone more than once? Or B, the results come from different channels? Please pop your answer into Morpheus. Don't go away to look it up. Think about what we spoke about earlier. And the answer is A. An ad can be shown to someone more than once. There are some channels where you can actually control how many times you want an ad to be shown to someone, but in others you don't have that option. Moving on to objectives and KPIs, specifically, what are they and why do we need them? Very important. An objective or objectives are goals set by a business when promoting itself to potential customers, which should be achieved within a given time frame. What is that saying? A goal without a plan is just a wish. So it does need to have a time frame for it to be achieved. Then KPIs, they are key performance indicators, and this is the measurable value or values that show how a business is achieving their objectives. So it's all very well and good saying, I want to do this thing. How do you know that you've achieved that thing? That's what the KPIs are there for, and that's what we will be spending a lot more time on in this module. So let's go through a few examples with some common objectives, starting with branding, either a new business that's starting that wants to build up a brand, or scaling an existing brand. Indicators of this objective would be impressions, so the number of times someone viewed an ad, reach, the number of people you've targeted or reached, traffic is the visits on your site, engagement is any, that would differ depending on where it is. If it's social, it would be, let's say, likes or comments or shares. If it's newsletters or emails, it would be open rates and link clicks. So it does depend. And then organic results. And that is referring to people actually searching your brand name. Then we have awareness. And I know awareness and branding are very closely linked, but in this case, I'm referring to getting your product or promotion seen by more eyes. So let's just say you've already established a brand, but now you're wanting to create awareness for a new product or service. Then the indicators would be very similar. Impressions, frequency, reach, ad recall, and engagement. Now the new one there is ad recall, and that is essentially an indication. I'm referring here specifically to Facebook. That's where we see it. It indicates how likely someone is to recall your ad or to remember your ad. Then there is sales, and of course the objective here, it's the end goal for most businesses, sales and profit. The indicators here would be return on investment or return on ad spend. your conversion rate, which is essentially the number of people who have made a purchase divided by the number of people who have visited your site. You obviously want to work on increasing that conversion rate. Your keywords, and this is referring to the different keywords that you might be bidding on. There would be various indicators around there, like maybe the cost per click is too high, the conversion rate is different on this keyword versus another, and you will find out more on keywords in lesson 6. Then bounce rate, that is something to do with analytics and the website. That is essentially the number of people or the percentage of people who have clicked to visit a page on your site but have then left straight away. So they haven't gone on to visit another page. Then we have retention, which is keeping your most loyal or valuable customers. Now, of course, this would generally or mostly be handled in-house or internally with a customer support or customer service team, but digital marketing or marketing can, of course, affect this, especially when you're looking at things like social media, community management, etc. But indicators for something like this, it is a bit broad. It's quite a broad goal at this point, would be lifetime value, conversion rate, frequency, engagement, and then performance of your different segments. And that's, you would have split your most loyal customers into different segments, and some might be performing better than others, and that's what you would be building on and looking at. So after all that, what is performance marketing? An umbrella term that refers to advertising on different channels and paying only when an action is completed. For example, a click, a lead, or a sale. Now, if we break those down a bit, with clicks, you only pay for the clicks, not the impressions. Examples of where you might want to have this as a strategy for payment is traffic. So traffic objective, you only want to pay per click, so per visit to your site. Awareness, you don't necessarily want to pay for impressions because that will be incredibly expensive, nor do you want to pay for leads because that's not the objective of this objective. And then branding, of course, for the same reasons, awareness and branding are linked. Then we have leads, and this is where you set a target cost per lead and only pay for leads. I do need to stress that just because you set a target, it doesn't mean it will achieve it. Sometimes it'll be higher, sometimes it'll be lower, and you'll understand this better in the course. But examples where this would make sense would be for branding, for scale, so if you're wanting to increase your amount of users or buyers, and then of course for sales, turning those leads into paying customers. Then for sales, what you can do is you can set a target return on investment or return on ad spend. And of course, all of the objectives, it would make sense here that is the end goal, sales. At the end of the day, we are driving everything towards sales, revenue, and then profit. So the difference between revenue and profit is that revenue is still containing all the different expenses, the things that should actually be deducted. Once you've done that, then you get your profit. True performance marketing encompasses a variety of strategies and analyses. It's not about just setting an automated target and then leaving it running. There are some core traits of performance marketing, namely analysis, of course, of data and whatever means or information you have available. Then optimization, incredibly important because you're optimizing for better performance based on your analysis. Communication. Communication has to be effective across all channels, otherwise there is no point. I think I heard somewhere the other day that even great marketing won't save a bad product. That is essentially it. So you need to make sure that as a business, if you have control over that your communication is fantastic. Then efficiency, and that is referring to a few things. We're going to break each of these things down, starting with analysis. You would use analytics tools, things like Google Analytics, reports that you can get from in-platform and third parties. Now, things that you would want to analyze would be your website, your marketing platforms, and your target audiences. So who you are targeting, where you're targeting them from, and what you're sending them to. That is what constantly needs to be analyzed. Then optimization. Techniques are definitely varied, but it is always, or should always, be based on data and insights. And insights only come about from looking at the data and analyzing it properly, as well as some logic and knowledge of trends and also different things. We will actually be looking at insights versus observations in the last lesson of Module 3. And then if we move on to communication, so effective across all mediums, it's incredibly important for retention, so keeping your customers happy. For social engagement, you need to have a proper social media strategy in place, community management policies, etc. Those have to be there. And then, of course, if you're using email, the communication around that needs to be streamlined, sending relevant communication, using the correct best practices and all those things. And as I think I said, we'll be spending time on that in Module 2. Finally, efficiency, which is all about logic and adaptation. It is finding solutions to problems, not just letting it run or letting it go, and also thinking outside of the box. It's not just about the marketing channel. That might not always be the problem. It could be the product, could be the site, etc. Then no wasted spend. It is incredibly important. I don't know how many times I have seen a keyword in a Google search campaign that has spent so much money and it is completely irrelevant to the business. It unfortunately just happens far more than it should. Then the main considerations in performance marketing, which are part of what ensures that we can keep to those 4 core concepts, is firstly tracking. We need to make sure that tracking is in place. We'll be looking at that in more detail in lesson 2, so the next lesson. Your budget. Of course, it's about making sure it's spent efficiently, so there's no wasted spend, it's not underspending. It's also not saying to clients, oh, I need huge sums of money, when actually you don't. It's based on thorough or proper research. Then channel selection. That's also about understanding the target market or the target audience, as well as the channels that are available to you, and knowing which demographics are on which channels, whether the reach maybe outweighs any other things like Facebook, for example. Generally, in the beginning, I wouldn't have recommended it for a business-to-business business. But now, because of the reach of it and the fact that we can target quite effectively, I would recommend it if there's a big enough budget. If not, then I would choose other channels. But yes, that's what it is about, cleverly choosing your channels to achieve the different goals that you have. Then there's also landing pages. Those need to be optimized, so user-friendly, fast, as much as possible. Very important. Once someone has clicked on an ad, essentially the responsibility of the platform is over. Then it is over to your website and to your customer service or any kind of internal processes that you have in place. Then competition. Something we always take into account. Some industries are far more competitive than others. Sometimes it makes sense to go after competitor keywords, so let's say competitor brand names is what I'm referring to, and other times it doesn't. So we always need to be on top of that, and of course make sure that whatever the product or service is that we're marketing is at the same level or better than the competition. Otherwise, it's going to be a very expensive exercise. And then volume. When it comes to optimizing a campaign, you need to make sure that you have enough volume to optimize with. If, for example, you only targeted 100 people, then there's no point in optimizing that, because it's not a big enough pool of people to optimize for. So at least 1,000, I would say, in terms of ads, at least 1,000 impressions. There are various different kind of thresholds that you would look at. So think fast. What does CPL stand for? Is it A, customer purchase list, or B, cost per lead? Put your answer into Morpheus. I'll give you a few seconds, maybe just one. And the correct answer is B, cost per lead. Well done, everybody. And that is it for lesson 1, but please do not go anywhere yet. I have a challenge for you today, and I would love you to do it and email it to me. But let's just look at what we're covering in lesson 2. What you're going to get out of this lesson is marketing funnels. You're going to understand those, determining your objectives, tracking your performance and how important that is, and then how analytics can help. If we recap this lesson, which was quite full of information, I hope you're all still with me and feeling okay and good and positive about the course. If you have any feedback on the first lesson, your thoughts about it, remember, please email me. I will put up that email address just now. But first lesson, what we learned was key points in digital marketing history, so you can get a better understanding of where we are going with this course. Then digital marketing channels, the top ones I have to add, common terms and acronyms for the first module, and then objectives and KPIs, an introduction to that, plus performance marketing basics. Here is my challenge for you today. I would love you to imagine that for a 3-month campaign, you have a total budget of $15,000. Your client's objective for this campaign is to get as many leads as possible. It doesn't matter what industry this business is in, the KPIs will be the same. So with that in mind, I want you to list what the top KPIs would be for this objective, what you think they would be. I'd like you to choose one channel per social media, PPC, and communication, so-called category in this lesson. It's a total of 3 channels. And then list why you think these channels would work. You don't have to know it for a fact. Please don't be afraid of any wrong answers. Even if you totally don't really get what I'm saying, try it anyway and just send it through. I will give you as much feedback as I can, as in I will reply to as many of you as I can. Sometimes I do get quite delayed though. Please email your answer to marketing@shoreacademy.com with the subject line Digital Marketing Lesson 1 Challenge. Thank you so much. I will see you soon for lesson 2. It's going to be jam-packed. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. See you soon, guys. Bye.